What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well, and we're mixing it up a little bit today. Usually, I talk about Mariners stuff later in the day. I try to keep the earlier videos focused on football, but there's really not a lot going on in the football world for me to talk about right now, so we're just going to go ahead and go with the Mariners video now. And this is the first Mariners check-in of the season. We are 10 games into the 2026 year. And we've got a variety of things to consider through the initial handful of games. So we're gonna go over things real quick, keeping in mind that we're still very early. If this was a football season, we'd be one game in equivalently. So definitely don't want to go too crazy one direction or the other yet. This video is sponsored by Prize Picks. More on them later. But through 10 games, the Mariners are 4-6, which is better than they were last year, and about in line with where they usually are after the first 10 games in the last almost decade. So I guess this is just usually how things go at the very beginning. But they are playing better baseball than that might necessarily indicate, I guess. They're probably about a 500 team that just happens to be 4-6. And there's been some good stuff happening so far for sure. I definitely think some of our priors have been confirmed as far as concerns go, but there are also some things really holding this team back that are not going to last. So the good stuff is, of course, Cole Young. Everything we talk about positively starts with Cole Young. He has been great defensively and offensively. He's been everything we could have hoped for, and probably more than we could have reasonably hoped for. By some definition, he is kind of carrying this team right now. He has been awesome. He has been legitimately, I would say, the best, at least position player on this team. And I don't know where we'd be without him. Brendan Donovan was playing great before he got hurt. And fortunately, it looks like the injury is not overly serious. So when we get him back soon here, it should improve things, and his absence is a big reason why things didn't go very well the last two games. The last two games, we lost both games by one run, and having Donovan in the lineup really could have shaken that up because of how he's playing. And Leo Rivas, I know he had a big hit yesterday, but overall, he's just not really getting it done. So even that part of it, I'm not overly despairing about. And there's plenty of other good stuff as well. Rosarina has been legitimately really good. He's drawing a lot of walks. His plate discipline seems a little bit better, and he's actually hitting close to 300. Rosarina's been really good, at least offensively. Luke Raley and Dominic Canzone look somewhat better than they did last year, at least. They seem like they're having at least partial bounce backs. I don't want to get too crazy with it, but I do think that we're getting at least something positive from Raley and Canzone, which is definitely a step in the right direction. And the things on this team that aren't going so well, like the middle of the lineup, there's just no way that's going to hold. Do you like sports? If you do, then the best way to make them even better and more exciting is using Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. Prize Picks makes daily fantasy simple. Just pick more or less on your favorite players' projections and build lineups with a few taps. Whatever sport you're into, Prize Picks gives you a fun way to stay locked in while you're watching. I've had a great time using Prize Picks so far. It makes this daily fantasy thing so easy and fun, and it even makes watching the games way more exciting. And with the cool social feeds feature, you can share lineups with your friends and even follow partners to tail or fade their picks. Obviously, we're in the NFL offseason right now, but we've got basketball, baseball, hockey, all kinds of other stuff, so don't be afraid to test things out in whatever sport clicks with you. You can even pick multiple sports in the same lineup and sweat everything at once. And don't forget about team picks, where you can pick winners, spreads, and totals on any major game. So, download Prize Picks, America's #1 sports app. And don't forget, Code HMA, that is HMA, gives you $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. And remember, always gamble responsibly. So the main thing that's stuck out so far this year is that Cal, Julio, and Josh Naylor especially have been nothing. They've been terrible. They haven't really done anything. Julio's had a couple of clutch ninth inning hits to drive in runs, but we lost those games anyway. And other than that, he has been looking kind of lost at the plate. There's no way that's going to hold. There's no way those three guys are going to be, I would even go so far as to say, net negatives for this team. So I don't see any sense in worrying about that. It's frustrating because we've lost winnable games because those guys aren't producing. Don't get me wrong, but that's not going to hold. And I don't even think Ref Schneider struggles, if you can call them that, are going to hold after he gets a decent sample. So when I look at stuff like that, I do feel like this team is going to get better. I do feel like this team is going to be good. Now, obviously, the opposite is also true. Cole Young will probably fall off at some point. Donovan cannot possibly play this good all season, although that's mostly because he's been so incredibly good. It's just not realistic. But having the middle of your order playing at a high level is more important than that anyway. And Arozarena, number one, he's in a contract year, so him playing really well might be sustainable. Even if it's not, Arozarena may not be here after the deadline. We'll see. So that stuff is going to be fine. I'm not worried about any of that. What I am worried about, though, is our infield defense. That, to me, is not necessarily fixable, and that is something that is going to be a big problem. Brendan Donovan has shown that he is adequate, maybe, at third base, but really he needs to be a shortstop. And JP Crawford, I know he just got back. I don't want to pass too harsh of a judgment here, but he's not swinging the bat well. And given the fact that he really isn't the greatest hitter in the world anyway, it would not surprise me if this is just kind of the new normal with JP Crawford, where he's just not going to hit that well. And he's a liability in the field at this point. He doesn't move that well, and now he's not throwing the ball that well. He had a pretty significant error yesterday. So he's, I think, become one of the worst defensive shortstops in baseball. So that part of it, you've got Leo Rivas, who tried to play third base yesterday with mixed results. There's a real problem with this infield defense in particular, and I think pretty clearly what needed to happen is that Donovan needed to be put at shortstop, and we needed to go get another real third baseman, and Crawford needed to be moved on from because I just don't know what he provides other than some sort of, I guess you could call it leadership, but other than that, I think his game is just not there anymore. Maybe the bat comes back a little bit. I don't think the defense is coming back. And then you throw in a guy like Randy Arozarena, who's also kind of a liability defensively. And then you have the mixed bag in right field where sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's not, depending on who's out there. Like Robles is fine, but Luke Raley, Canzone, and you've got a noticeable problem. And there's not much they can do to fix it because it's too late to go get a real third baseman. So the team is kind of stuck with having this lackluster defense, and that's a big problem. So that's the part that bothers me. I think the offense will be fine. I think we're going to start hitting. I think that stuff will work out. But the defense, I don't know. Now, the pitching real quick. I think the starting rotation is going to be fine. Gilbert has had a bad start to the year. Sure. Not a big fan of what Gilbert's done so far, but he'll be at least okay this year. I think he'll figure it out. Hancock seems like he's improved significantly, and he's a guy who may even get pushed into like the bullpen at some point because we may not need him. Castillo's been fine so far. Woo's been great. George Kirby has been okay. I'm not going to get too down on him, but the thing to remember with this rotation is that Castillo, number one, tends to get better when the weather warms up. So if he's already pitching fairly well so far this year, things should improve with time. I know he wasn't great yesterday, but overall, over 2 games, you'd say Castillo's done his job. And when we get Bryce Miller back, we have options. We can push Hancock down to the bullpen or shoot him down to Tacoma. We can remove Castillo from the rotation if he falls off. And Miller was great last year, so these are viable strategies. These are things that we can realistically do. So I think the rotation is going to at least be okay. Maybe it won't be top 3, but I think it'll probably be top 5. I think. I'm worried about the bullpen, though. Other than the guys that we know are dogs, guys like Munoz, guys like Brash, and I know Munoz hasn't been the greatest in the world yet, but it's a tiny sample size. It doesn't really mean anything. Other than that, and to a lesser extent, I guess you could say Spire, I don't know what we have yet. Ferrer is a ground ball pitcher, and we don't have a very good infield. Criswell's nice so far, but I'm not gonna feel amazing about him until I see more. And Bizzardo, okay, I like Bizzardo well enough, but I don't believe that he's so good that we can just count on him being money in the bank. And even if you send Hancock down to the bullpen, is that good enough? Is he a bullpen pitcher? Is his stuff good enough for that? Can he actually help? I don't know. So that's kind of where I am right now. I like the rotation. Rotation will be fine. We're deep. We're good. Miller will be back. The bullpen doesn't seem like we improved much from last year. All right. Let me know what you guys think. I'll see you guys later. Go Mariners. Another video coming later. At least one more. And that is my Game 10 check-in.